My name is Satish Gujaran. I've been running since 2004. I started with my run with half marathon, full marathon. This year it was my 14th consecutive year I ran the Comrades Marathon, and I've been training people for almost now 3 to 4 years. This is a 16 weeks training program for runners who wants to do a full marathon and who are at present doing a 10 kilometers and logging in around 20 to 30 kilometers a week. This is a 16 weeks because physiologically adaptation takes actually time. Physiologically in the sense like endurance, muscle adaptation, improved capillary density and tendon strength. It takes little time, and also it don't happen in just 4 to 8 weeks. It takes about 12 to 16 weeks, gives your body time to adapt slowly without any overload, and hence that mileage progression also happens gradually, and this will allow inclusion of the strength, mobility and drills, and mental condition and discipline as well. You must consider the health and other parameters before you start your running journey regarding your recent illness or surgery, existing medical conditions like asthma, diabetes, high BP, thyroid disorders and injury history. You must also do a blood test, especially vitamin D, B12, iron and ferritin. This is for women especially. This 16 weeks program, we divide into 4 phases. First phase is base building, the second one is speed, and the third one is peaking, fourth is tapering. So out of this 4, first we start with the base building. Base building is a crucial phase in a runner's training plan. This works as a foundation in training. This focusing on developing aerobic fitness, endurance and overall strength before introducing more intense workouts like speed training or hill repeats. Proper running posture is very crucial for both performance and injury prevention as well. Maintaining a upright stance, engaging your core, looking ahead and shoulders relaxed, hip aligned, focus on slight forward lean from the ankle and naturally relaxed shoulders and a natural arm swing, up down and parallel to the ground. These are the key aspects of good running posture. You must focus on easy, consistent mileage. Run at a conversational pace where you can speak properly while running to build your aerobic pace without overtraining. Gradually increase your weekly mileage by no more than 10% to prevent injury. For example, your weekly mileage is 30 kilometers, then 10% of that is 33 kilometers. Incorporate long runs. Why incorporate long runs? Because it builds endurance. Endurance is the ability of your body to sustain physical or mental effort over a long period of time. It reflects how long you can keep going without getting tired. It will improve your overall fitness, reduce risk of injury, active recovery, mental refresh if you are doing other than any primary sports, and build strength and mobility and boost performance. In short, cross training makes you stronger, safer and smarter athlete. Strength training has a wider ranging benefits for body. It improves your cardiovascular health, blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, as well as helping strengthen your bones, general fitness level, mobility and agility. Especially for runners, regularly 3 days of minimum 2 days of strength training helps you to improve muscle power, build stability and balance, resistance to fatigue and injury as well, and improves posture and form, and builds stability and balance. Most importantly, prevent you from injury. Few strength training exercises for the lower body. For example, squats, which are like, either you have a body weight squats or a goblet or a split squats. And also you can do lunges. There are few varieties in forward lunges, reverse lunges and walking lunges. Step-ups you can do either on the bench or the box. Deadlifts like Romanian deadlifts, especially for hamstrings, core and balance and stability. Most affected muscle groups in runnings are glutes and your hamstrings, quads, calves, hip flexors and abductors, Achilles tendon, ITB, etc. Include body weight or resistance exercises 2 to 3 times a week to strengthen key running muscles. Build consistency by running at least 4 to 5 times a week. Consistency is the key, and shorter easier runs are just as important as long ones. You must limit speed work or interval training during this phase to focus purely on building endurance and avoid fatigue. Listen to your body. Pay attention to the signs of overtraining or fatigue and allow rest days to recover. Among runners, the common overuse injuries are like runner's knee. This happens, pain around your kneecap, worsens during going downhill or stairs, and also IT band syndrome, pain on the outside of the knee or thigh, and some of them you might get Achilles tendinitis, that heel or lower calf pain, often stiff in the mornings, and also shin splints, a pain along the shin bone, common in new runners. Plantar fasciitis, this heel pain, especially with the first steps in the morning. Normal muscle fatigue is also called as DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. This is also known as a muscle fever, is a sore, aching, painful feeling in the muscles after unfamiliar exercises. So when you get injured, you must stop the activity. Don't push through the pain. Or you follow RICE method, that is rest, ice, compression and elevation for first 24 to 72 hours. And you must see a professional if pain lasts more than a few days or worsens. Rehab and recovery, follow guided rehab plan, avoid jumping back in too fast. Stay active with low impact options like swimming, or you can go for cycling. Yoga can surely help you stay fit without aggravating the injury. During RICE method, you can use a pain relief solution like Zandu Fast Relief spray to get instant relief from pain. Zandu Fast Relief spray is ideal for muscle fatigue, soreness, mild sprains, strains and joint discomfort after intense run and workouts. Why I trust Zandu Fast Relief spray? Because it is recommended by the Indian Association of Physiotherapists with its turbo action formula specially designed to penetrate deep into muscle tissues, relieves pain within seconds, helping you bounce back faster. Before you start base building, it's essential to have a proper warm-up and cool-down regime to prevent injuries. I would say that if your main run, for example, if you're doing a 10 kilometers run, I don't mind you can do a 1 kilometer less, but you don't miss out the warm-up and cool-down, because warm-up and cool-down is very, very important. That is the basics in running. That is very, very crucial for injury-free running. It gradually increases the heart rate and blood flow to working muscles and loosens joints. Every time before you start running, you do stretching and must do warm up, and end of the run you must do cool down. Following are the stretching exercises before you start running. The leg swings, front to back, side to side, 5 times each legs, and arm circles, 3 forward and 3 backward. Hip circles, 3 each directions, high knees, march or jog for 30 seconds, butt kicks for 30 seconds, walking lunges, 5 each leg, ankle rolls, 10 each side. After running, cool down is most important. You must cool down at least for 6 to 10 minutes. As I said earlier, your main run is for 10 kilometers. If you don't have time, you can do a 9 kilometers, skip 1 kilometer, but keep this time for cool down. Because if you don't cool down after your run, there is a chances of getting injured. The cool down exercise loosen muscles, reduce soreness, improve flexibility, and these are the following cool down exercises are like standing quad stretches you can do for 30 seconds each leg. You can also do hamstring stretches seated or standing 30 seconds each leg, calf stretch against wall or on step 30 seconds each side, hip flexor stretch, kneeling lunge 30 seconds each side, glute stretch lying down or seated figure 4 that 30 seconds each side, lower back stretch in child's pose 30 seconds, shoulder and arm stretch 30 seconds. The base building phase is spread across 1 to 7 weeks, where the focus is to build aerobic pace and long run endurance. In that week 1, if you see the table, refer the table, in that Tuesday you have 10 kilometers easy run. That has to be a conversational pace. you can able to talk while running. On Thursday, 8 kilometer easy run on hills. While you are running on the hills, you got to be easy both uphill and downhill. And while coming down, it should be a step, short steps, so that wear and tear is not much on the muscles. Either or Saturday or Sunday, you can do a 15 kilometer chit chat run. You should be running on the flat terrain. Week 2 on Tuesday, again you will be running a 10 kilometer easy conversational pace run. And on Thursday, 10 kilometers hill run, same way, both way, like you're going down and upish. Running on the hill, you should take a short steps, go easy on the knees. Saturday or Sunday, you have 18 kilometers chit chat run. Compared to the first week, the second week on long run day, you're doing 18 kilometers. That is 10% more than the first week. The reason behind you do a 10% increase in your long run distance compared to the first week is it should not be a burden to your legs also, and should not be too much of a training. So ideal is like increase only 10%. That's the ideal way, because not be a burden to your performance also. In week 3, Tuesday, you have a 12 kilometers easy run at a conversation pace, a little bit more than the last week's. And on Thursday, again you're doing a hill run, same as the previous week. And either on Saturday or Sunday, you're doing a 15 kilometers chit chat run instead of 18 kilometers last week, because 2 weeks of increase in mileage, and the third week you are reducing the mileage little bit more. On week 4, on Tuesday, again you are doing a 10 kilometer easy conversation pace, and Thursday you're increasing the hill run by 1 kilometer, that 11 kilometers, and on Saturday, Sunday or Sunday, that weekend, you're doing a 21 kilometer chit chat run. This has to be a easy chit chat run on aerobic pace. On week 5, Tuesday, again you're doing a 12 kilometer easy run conversation pace. Remember, this is a base building, so it has to be a conversational easy aerobic pace. On Thursday, again you're doing a hill run easy 12 kilometers, and either on Saturday or Sunday you're increasing by 5 more kilometers than the previous week. You're coming to 26 kilometer long run easy pace, and last 3-4 kilometers try to push, so that you conserve your energy for the last 4 kilometers, so push little bit harder. On week 6, you have again 12 kilometers easy conversational pace, and Thursday you're increasing a bit of your hill run again. It's a 15 kilometers. And again now Saturday or Sunday, you're increasing your mileage to 28 kilometers. You have to get used to that endurance mileage, more and more mileage. So 28 kilometers long easy runs, and pace also a little bit, push at the end a little bit more, so that like you get to that habit of pushing 3-4 kilometers little bit more intense, so that you can conserve your energy for the last 3-4 kilometers. We'll talk about the next phases in episode 2. Now you have completed the base building phase. Well done. Now it's time to take your training to the next level. Phase 2 is a speed phase. It consists of 5 weeks of focused on building pace and strength. We introduce in this phase tempo runs, intervals, and faster efforts to improve your running economy. Don't worry, the plan is very well balanced. 1 hard session, 1 long run, followed by 1 easy runs to recover. You will feel your stamina growing and your confidence rising with every week. Aerobic base, in phase 1, runners need to develop their anaerobic capacity, running economy, and neuromuscular coordination. The speed phase does exactly that. This phase improves the efficiency and strength of the heart, lungs, and muscles, helping runners to maintain the faster paces for longer durations, which is the key to achieving their marathon goal. It will improve your lactic threshold, because when you are running harder pace, you can sustain that prolonged period of time. First week your threshold is so and so kilometers. Second week and increasing the threshold little by little. So every week, bit by bit, I am increasing your threshold, so that your threshold gets improved every time. Now the second point is run faster without fatigue building up too early. Every week you push yourself little by little, gradually, so that your fatigue build up prolongs for over the period of time. Now the third point is better running economy. That means when you're running, you maintain certain pace according to your HR heart rate. You maintain certain pace which is like below your threshold, or sometimes exactly on the threshold. So every time you increase that pace little by little and maintain that pace for a prolonged period of time, what happens, your heart rate also gets maintained. So this will convert into efficiency in running. Point 4, the stronger muscles and joints prepare the body for the intensity of peak long runs. As you run faster, your muscle becomes stronger and the joints also prepares your body for the peak long runs. Point number 5, injury resilience. High intensity training builds neuromuscular strength. And point number 6, in the speed pace, it will mentally makes you tougher and teaches you to handle discomfort and hold pace for a longer period of time. Now let me summarize you the speed phase. It's a 5 weeks of schedule as we discussed, and it is week 1 to 2 we introduce the faster efforts with caution, and week 3 and 4 peak intensity, and we introduce tempo plus intervals and race pace. Week 5 we started reducing the volume slightly, transition into a peaking phase, which is going to be a next phase. Now this in the speed phase compared to that base building phase, you have a 4 days of running instead of 3 days, because you're gradually upgrading yourself and getting used to the training now. So that week 1, all the runs are start with warm up 1 kilometer minimum and finish with 1 kilometer cool down. This is must in any runs. On a Tuesday, you have 8 kilometers easy conversational pace. You can able to talk while running. So not a speed faster you have to run, easy pace. On Thursdays, you have a 9 kilometers, that is 1 kilometer 60% of your heart rate. You are running little bit faster, little uncomfortable you might feel, but you are pushing only 1 kilometer. But every 1 kilometer you are taking a 2 minutes of break. Break is like, it's like a walking in between, no stopping. You have to walking break you have to take. It's a recovery break. And this way you're doing a 7 times repetition, 1 kilometer at 60% of your heart rate for 7 repetitions on Thursday. Saturday, you have a 8 kilometers tempo run, which is 70 to 80% of your maximum heart rate. We know the threshold is about 8 kilometers. That's why I'm giving you only 8 kilometers, not 10 kilometers. So you can sustain that 70 to 80% of your heart rate for 8 kilometers. And on Sunday, you have a easy long run for 25 kilometers, where you can conversation pace this is. Now on week 2, same like week 1 also, your cool down and warm up both will be there, 1 kilometer each, 1 kilometer warm up and the 1 kilometer cool down, that is must after every run. And on Tuesdays you have a 5 kilometers instead of last week's 8 kilometers. I've reduced the kilometer to 5 kilometers, so time trial for 80% of the effort level. So what happens is like when you're first week you have done 8 kilometers, now you have to do mentally you are prepared now. Last week you did 8 kilometers, now you're doing 5 kilometers, so the efficiency will be more. That is the reason I reduced the kilometer this week. And on Thursdays, again 1 kilometer at 70% of your heart rate and 7 repetitions are given and 2 minutes of recovery in between the repetitions. And on Saturday, you have a 8 kilometers tempo, same like last week, like 70 to 80% of your maximum heart rate. But Sunday, your kilometers are increased to 32 kilometers of easy run. Because in this speed phase, this is a weak second, so you got to get used to the endurance also. So 32 kilometers at a conversation pace, you are doing it easy run. Now week 3, again this week also starts with the warm up and the cool down for 1 kilometer each. Every kilometer when you're doing a warm up, after the warm up, when you're running a main run, always see that your heart rate is settled to around 100 bps, or you can say you should feel comfortable about it, like you're well settled. Then you start the main run. At the same time, after you finish your run, cool down also, you do a walk jog of cool down, no running there. On Tuesdays, you do a 6 kilometer easy run at a conversation pace. And Thursday, you do a 10 kilometer, again you're doing a 1 kilometer easy run, followed by 2 kilometers, 80% of your heart rate. This repeat it for only 3 times. Last week I'd given you 1 kilometer at 80% of a heart rate. This time you increased it by 1 more kilometer. That 2 kilometers you're going at 80% of your heart rate. And Saturday, again you're doing 8 kilometers of tempo, 70 to 80% of your maximum heart rate. On Sunday, again you're doing a 25 kilometers easy run at a conversation pace. Now you're on to week 4 of your speed run. Now the intensity is slowly building up. Tuesday, you do a 6 kilometer easy run again. Start your week with the easy run along with your warm up and cool down. On Thursday, you do again a time trial of 10 kilometers. That is 80% of your effort level. And Saturday, you do a 10 kilometer. Instead of 8 kilometers, you're doing a 10 kilometer of tempo. Again on 70 to 80% of your maximum heart rate. Now Sunday, this is the key. You're doing a 21 kilometer. But in that 21 kilometer, you start with a comfortable pace, but last 5 kilometer, you do a race pace. What is your full marathon race pace, what you're going to finish? In that race pace, you have to do the 5 kilometers. That means you have to conserve your energy for the last 5 kilometers. Week 5, you don't find any much difference between like week 4 and 5, unless 1 or 2 days, you can see this. Tuesdays, you have a 10 kilometers easy run, conversation pace. You can able to talk while running. And on Thursdays, you have a 12 kilometers of 1 kilometer each of 60% of your heart rate. Now you have a 10 repetitions. Repetitions are more. And as usual, you do a 2 minutes of recovery between the repetitions. Saturday, you have a 10 kilometer tempo, 70 to 80% of your heart rate. And Sunday, again you are doing a 21 kilometers. The last week, whatever you have done 21 kilometers, you can improve on that in this week. Last 5 kilometers of this 21, again in the race pace. In case if you are making any mistakes in the last week, you can rectify it in this week and better your performance compared to your last week. Now you just finished your speed phase. Now let's get into a peaking phase. The peaking phase pulls everything together, simulates race conditions and builds race day confidence. This is where everything starts to come together. Your strength, your mindset, your routine. You're almost marathon ready now. Think of this as a final dress rehearsal for the taper and the marathon. Now what happens during these 3 weeks of peaking phase? Week 1 and 2, highest long run volume, 25 to 32 kilometers and simulate race pace and effort. Week 3, slight drop in volume, beginning the taper while still keeping sharp. Now how you approach this? Week 1, all the runs are, starts with the 1 kilometer minimum warm up and finish with 1 kilometer cool down walk. Now Tuesdays, you have a 5 kilometer easy run, conversational pace. You can able to talk while running. This is the first day of the week. That's why always I give you a easy run, conversation pace runs. And on Thursdays, you have a 8 kilometers run. This is consist of miles repeat, that 1.6 kilometer at 80% of your heart rate into only 3 reps. And in between the reps, you have 1 minute of recovery walk. Every rep, you have a 1 kilometers of recovery walk. On Saturday, you have a 8 kilometer tempo run of 70 to 80% of your maximum heart rate. This also consists of warm up and cool down. On Sunday, you have a 32 kilometers. This 32 kilometers is a maximum you have to do in 3 to 3.5 hours. This you're getting ready for your race. That is the reason I given you time. So you have to finish in 3 or 3.5 hours time, 32 kilometers. So compared to the first week, even the second week also, there is a time limit in your distance. Now the week 2, you starts with the 1 kilometer warm up and cool down in every run, Tuesdays and Thursdays and even Sundays also. So Tuesdays, you have a 6 kilometer easy run, conversation pace. You can able to talk while running. And Thursdays, you have a 8 kilometers. This consists of 800 meters at 80% of your heart rate. After finishing 800 meters, you have a 200 meters of recovery walk. This is in between the repetition of 800 meters. So this way you do a 7 repetition of 800 meters. And on Saturday, you do a 8 kilometer tempo against 70 to 80% of your maximum heart rate. Sunday is 25 kilometers. You have to finish in 2 to 2.5 hours, or maximum you can take is 2 hours 45 minutes. Now compared to the week 2, week 3, I'm slightly increasing the pace and effort level also. So that all the runs are start with as usual, 1 kilometer warm up and cool down, So the Tuesday's run is 5 kilometers easy run at conversational pace. You can able to talk while running. And Thursday, 10 kilometers. Again, I'm giving you 800 meters at 80% of your heart rate, followed by 200 meters of recovery walk of 7 repetitions. And Saturday, you have a 8 kilometers tempo at 70 to 80% of your heart rate. Now Sunday, it's a 21 kilometers run. This will be a little faster than your previous weeks, around 2 hours 20 minutes. You must have seen it like, the peaking and the speed. In that, I've given you a time limit for 21 and for 32. So it doesn't mean that you follow same program, 2 or 3 people are following, doesn't mean that all the 3 finish in same time. No, one person finish little faster, second person might finish, little bit longer also you might take. It all depends on your consistency and your strengthening, how good you're in, you follow the strengthening programs also. Now you've gone through the peaking phase. Tapering phases of 2 weeks. Here you maintain a race intensity and most importantly, you emphasize on rest. Now for the marathon runners, a 2-week taper strikes the perfect balance between the race day and the tapering. Tapering is the final phase of your training where you gradually reduce your training volume, allowing your full recovery from peak training and maintaining race readiness without losing fitness. Now, how does tapering helps? This will help you repair your muscles and help you recover, restore glycogen stores because of your easy runs, reduces fatigue, inflammation, mental freshness, in turn maximizes performance. Tapering training plans consist of 2 weeks, and week 1, as usual, like all the runs, you start with warm up and cool down. So the Tuesday you have a 5 kilometers run. It's a time trial. 80% of your effort level you have to put in this 5 kilometers. And Thursdays you have a 10 kilometers, consist of 800 meters, 80% of your heart rate, followed by 200 meters of recovery walk. That way you're doing a 7 repetitions. On Saturday, you'll be doing a yoga, swim or a full body stretching. You're taking it a little bit easy because this is a tapering phase. And Sunday, you have a 16 kilometers again on a conversation easy pace. Second week again on Tuesday, you're doing a 5 kilometers run. This is also a time trial, 80% of your effort level of your this HR maximum, heart rate maximum. Now heart rate maximum is like you can calculate 220 minus your age. Whatever the figure comes, that is your heart rate maximum. On Thursday, you have a 8 kilometers, that is 400 meters at 80% of your heart rate and 200 meters of recovery walk in between each rep. But this time 400 meters you're doing in 10 times, 10 repetitions of 400 meters. Now Saturday, back to yoga, swim or a full body stretching you have to do it. And Sunday again, 13 kilometers of easy pace run. What are the things to avoid during this taper phase? You must be following the plan properly, and there are runs which are like, the pace is like little bit more because these are the sharpening ones. At the same time, mostly like you have to spend more time on relaxing and your cross trainings and yoga and other things like, you should not be stressing too much. You have to be relaxed mentally and physically as well. Take a lot of rest, sleep well. That is the most important in tapering phase. Train well, be consistent, enjoy your run injury free.